Why hello there, and welcome back to Tabletop Ferox. And in this episode, I'll be looking at Ball of the Wild, which was part of Zine Quest 2022 and is built on the polymorph system, which is one of those things that I'd been hearing about and was somewhat intrigued by, and am now finally getting a chance to check out. So Ball of the Wild is about a drag ball in the animal queendom. See, it's a pun on Animal Kingdom and also Drag Queen, in which animals perform dressed as other kinds of animals, or maybe just a more fabulous version of the same animal. Which I guess means we need to make us an animal drag performer. First, we take an index card and fold it in half, and this will basically function as our character sheet. Then we choose which type of animal we will perform as and write that on the outside of the card. And let's go with bat. Then we choose a role which represents our style of performance, the options being glib, funny, soulful, and physical. And you know what, let's just go with funny. You can get a lot of mileage out of being funny. Then we need to choose our level as a performer. And for that, let's go with hobbyist. So, it's really just a thing we do on weekends for funsies. We're not really pro or even trying to turn pro. Then we get a die associated with our role, which are a D4, D6, D8, or D10. And the die associated with funny is a D6. So that is our die, and that is the entire mechanical definition of our character. And that is the thing that really caught my attention about the polymorph system, because how do you define an entire character by a single die without making certain die types objectively better or worse than others? And obviously I will be explaining that later, but for now there are a few other little things we need to take care of. We have our character's stage name and pronouns, and let's just go with Chandra Lashade. That seems like a good bat drag performer name. And the card is getting a little crowded, so why don't we just, clean that up a little bit. Then we write the animal that our character lives as outside of the ball on the inside of the folded card. But for now, that is a secret. And this character is done. And it is a lot easier to keep that secret part secret when you are not also illustrating the character. And this is one of those little details that does a lot of thematic lifting, because this is basically your name card. You set it on the table in front of yourself, facing the other players. And that publicly facing information on the front of the card is also how your character is presenting at the ball. However, their other identity is still there on the card. It is a documented part of the character, but is literally hidden behind the stage persona. So the simple folded card ends up being a fairly elegant representation of the fact that you are playing a character who is also playing a character. Like, you have your stage persona, but then you have another identity underneath that, which I am still keeping hidden so that I can reveal it dramatically later. But now on to the game itself. Ball of the Wild uses a shifting GM system where players take turns running the game and assuming the persona of Mother Nature. So all of the players collaboratively decide on the setting, decoration, themes, etc. for the ball, then describe their character's dramatic entrances, then one takes the role of Mother Nature, and then issues a performance challenge that all of the other characters take part in. The general performance types being speaking, comedy, music, and dance. And let's just say that Mother Nature has asked the performers to sing classic novelty songs. That would be a music challenge, and each type of challenge has a number of success numbers. In the case of music, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we roll our d6 and get a 5, which is a success because we rolled one of the success numbers. And that is how the system works. You have a spread of success numbers for each type of challenge, so a d4 can have a 75% chance of success on a task where a d10 only has 30, but then also a d10 has a 60% chance on a task where a d4 has a 25. No particular die is objectively better or worse overall, but they are all better and worse at specific things. Also, you may notice a slight issue with some of the numbers here, and I will get to that shortly. So we rolled our die, got a 5, which was a success, and then we narrate how our character launches into a spectacular version of the hit 1923 novelty song, Yes, We Have No Bananas. No, seriously, 2 different versions of that song were #1 hits in 1923. Also, a roll of whatever the highest value is on your die is a Tierra success, which means that it was such a successy success that it advances the state of our performing career, say going from a hobbyist to a professional. So a dance challenge, which is successful on a result of 5 through 9, can be successful on a roll of 4 if you are rolling a d4, but not on any other kind of dice. And that's why the numbers might not have seemed to have added up correctly earlier. Those were done taking this into account. Then if you roll a 1, that is not a failure, it is an inner animal success, which is another interesting mechanic here. Basically, it is a near failure, which is then saved by some aspect of the animal that you live as outside of the ball. And that is an interesting mechanic because it kind of sidesteps the traditional types of results. Instead of the standard success, failure, critical failure, success with complications, partial success, etc. that you get in most other systems, it provides you a success that draws upon a completely different aspect of your character, which for a heavily narrative-focused game like this is going to be a significant narrative distinction. And then after all the characters have performed, Mother Nature declares a winner for the challenge, and then that player becomes Mother Nature for the next round. And then after everyone has had one turn as Mother Nature, the game moves into a winding down after-party phase, where everyone relaxes, takes off their costumes, and reveals what animal they were underneath. So I guess I will do that now, and it turns out, underneath it all, our character was a platypus. I know. Shocking. And that was Ball of the Wild, a fun, cute little game that manages to sneak in some pretty strong themes of identity, and more specifically, performance of identity. As I often say, I really like the games that explore themes other than kill things and acquire material wealth. There is so much more to explore than kill things and acquire material wealth. And the mechanics here are interesting. They are somewhat standard from a very abstract perspective, in that you roll a die to determine the outcome of events. But then it separates from the more traditional implementation of that, where either rolling high or low is generally good or bad. Rather, sometimes rolling high is good, sometimes rolling low is good, sometimes rolling in the middle is good. The number that you roll is just a reference to determine what happens. If you succeed on a 3, it doesn't really matter if you rolled high on a d4 or low on a d10. And the same with the inner animal success. Like, it's not uncommon to have a special case for rolling a 1. However, from an abstract mechanical perspective, there's no reason why that special case has to be a special failure or a special success. It can just be a different outcome. And here rolling a 1 is a success, but it's not a better success or a worse success, it's just a different success. And as I said earlier, I do really like the symbolism of the exterior-interior folded character card. I do, however, have one complaint, and that is that the structure of the shifting GM duty being determined by the winner of the previous round and the game ending after each player has had GM duty once does imply that the winner of the final round is always going to be by default and also the first player to GM. And even in a silly little animal drag game, winning by default is still less fun. And it looks okay. The art is adorable, but the layout is fairly plain, and I'm not really fond of seeing script typefaces in body text. And that was Ball of the Wild, a silly little animal drag performance game with an unexpected bit of depth to it. It is, however, very much low stakes and heavily narrative focused. You are going to be doing a lot of describing things and very little rolling dice. So that is the expectation you need to have going into it. And thank you for watching, with extra special thanks to my Fight and Flail Snails, Randy Mulholland, and Toshiro Kuro. If you'd like to be cool like them, check out my Patreon, where you can get early access to videos and fun stuff that I make for the Patreon. But if you don't want to do that, that's cool too. You can still hit all the lovely buttons, like, subscribe, these other videos floating around the screen that either myself or the cold, heartless YouTube algorithm have lovingly selected for you, which I'm sure are lovely videos that you will also enjoy. And I will see you next time.